Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen, and with us for our program today, Assemblyman Michael Norris. Mike Norris represents the 144th Assembly District in New York State. That's an Assembly District that includes Erie County, Niagara County, and Orleans County. And we want to thank you folks all across the western part of New York State for tuning in for our program today, where it is our charge to let you folks know what's going on at the state capitol in Albany and how it impacts you. Mike Norris, nice to see you.
Thank you for having me today, Mike. I appreciate it.
Of course, the big topic of discussion at the state capitol right now is the ongoing budget talks, and we're going to find out what's on the table, what the leadership's talking about, and where this budget process is headed, and again, what it might mean for your pocketbooks or your tax returns. But before we get to that, big meeting this past week on what's going on with Lake Ontario. Let's take a listen as to some of what was talked about there, Mike Norris.
Yes, preparations are being made back in Niagara County along the southern shore of Lake Ontario in the event that we have additional flooding this year due to the high water like last year. We are hopeful that the water won't be as bad as last year, but the emergency management crew, our Niagara County Sheriff, our volunteer firefighters are all making preparations in the event that we do have high water again. Just so the folks know back home, and it's very, very important, we are continuing to do our part here in Albany to make sure that the funding is available for those individuals, the taxpayers, property owners along the southern shore who were affected by the flooding last year and had devastation either to their shoreline or to even some of the structures. The applications were graded at risk who had the most damage, and that's how those applications are being funded right now. We've been assured by the governor's office through various pots in the state budget that if the application is qualified, then they will receive the fundings. We just ask that our folks be patient as they're going through the process. I am equally as frustrated. Many of you reach out to my office. I continue to push the governor and the office all the time to get these funds out so we can shore up the shoreline.
You can ask people to be patient.
Yes.
But it's not always easy, especially when you see some of what they're dealing with.
Absolutely, and I tell you, our offices, Senator Ort and myself, we have been fighting for you every inch of the way, and we will continue to do so. We are proud to represent the Southern Shore, and we know you've been afflicted by the damages, but preparations are being made, and I want to assure everyone that if there's any problems, please reach out to our emergency management group, and we'll be there to assist.
So even though some monies have been released by the state, by the emergency management operations that are helping out, it's an ongoing process. It's not all done, and they haven't walked away yet?
That's correct. It's an ongoing process. They made the preparations on the emergency side, and in terms of the funding side, applications were due last year. They were graded as an as-needed basis, and any qualified application will be done. But those individuals who had the most damage, or in terms of maybe their structure would go first before the shoreline, they're all been ranked and they're going through that process. We've been assured that the funding will be there for qualified applications. Last year, the state legislature asked for $90 million for the folks along the southern shore of Lake Ontario. That was slashed, but the governor has come back and has been helpful to us as the funds are needed. So we just ask the folks back home, we're going through the process, but we're doing our part to ensure that they're going to be protected going forward.
It's a good thing to know, because I'm sure there's a lot of people on pins and needles wondering about that, especially with the amount of snow we've seen this year, the runoff that we can expect. Who knows what's going to happen to the level of the lake? And
this is all about Plan 2014, and I have to tell you, Congressman Chris Collins has done a great job. He's been a strong advocate out there to make sure that we get new commissioners on the International Joint Commission to address Plan 2014. They're going through the vetting process. I know the proposed commissioners, and he is working very, very hard to continue to shed light on this issue, and as well as myself. This is a long-term problem with Plan 2014. This is not just something that happened last year and will go away. So I know the Congressman has been working very hard on this. We appreciate his efforts, and we will continue to fight to repeal Plan 2014.
We are into the month of March here at the state capitol, and that means it's budget time. The state budget is due to be in place. The fiscal year begins on April 1st. There's some extra incentives this year because Easter falls on April 1st. That means you've got Good Friday. The Passover holiday actually starts on Good Friday, so you got the religious holidays. And this is all kind of inside Albany parlance because a lot of the legislators don't want to be working over the religious holidays. So you've got some hard and fast deadlines coming up on top of the normal April 1st deadline to have the budget in place, Mike Norris. So with all that said, just a few weeks to go as we sit here and tape this program. What are the priority issues for you as these budget talks are played out? The legislative hearings are over. Soon we will have an assembly budget on the table. Soon we will have a Senate budget on the table joining the governor's budget proposal, and that's when the serious talks begin.
That's right. The governor made his proposal back on January 15th. His proposed budget was $168.2 billion. He made 30-day amendments as part of that process, and now the state assembly and the state senate will be doing their budgets, and then the negotiations will happen. And unfortunately, it comes down to 4 men in a room: the leaders, the governor, the IDC leader, as well as the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker will gather. And I am frustrated with that process. You know, I think it's very, very important that the rank and file members of the legislature have a voice in this process. I hear from constituents and groups all the time, and they want to make sure that the issues that are important to Western New York are front and center in that process. And though I'm not happy about how this 4 men in the room happens, I would like the folks back home to know I am fighting for the priorities of Western New York, which includes, number one, CHIPS funding. You know, we've had a very difficult winter. We've had warmer periods and colder periods. That has caused our roads to have upheavals, potholes out there. We've driven through them, and it's a very serious situation. The governor's proposed budget kept CHIPS funding, which is for the highways, at a flat rate, and did not include the winter recovery money as well, like we did last year. So many of my colleagues, I believe over 100 in the New York State Assembly, have signed on to the letter to make sure that we enhance our CHIPS funding and restore the winter relief money as well. So that is a very important priority to me, to the people of West New York, and I will be fighting hard for that in this upcoming budget.
For those who don't know, CHIP stands for Community Highway Improvement Project.
That's yes.
Yeah.
And many of your local highway superintendents are actually in Albany this week and educating us on the importance of making sure that these funds are restored and actually enhanced, because these are the taxpayers' money. You know, I remember that every time I walk in the chamber, I'm like, this is your money. This is the taxpayers' money. So where should that money be invested? I'm a very strong supporter, staunchly for making sure that the monies that are spent, the taxpayers' money, go back into infrastructure. If we don't have roads, if we don't have good bridges, we don't have good water and sewer lines, these are the avenues that we get to work, and we make sure we have good paying jobs as a result. But if you can't even get to work or have access to good water, then that's where the problems would begin. So I'm fighting very hard for more money. Our highway superintendents are here. We have great highway superintendents throughout the 144th district, and I'm glad they're here advocating as well.
And this is, you said upheavals and all. This is a tough season. Here in the Capital District, I've seen potholes this year like I haven't seen in many a year. This has been especially bad this year.
Yeah, CHIPS funding statewide is $438 million. That's out of a $168.2 billion proposed budget. That is a very low amount of our budget. We need to make sure we invest into our highways, and you can count on me for fighting hard to make sure we fix those potholes in our roads and our communities.
What are some of the other issues you're following closely?
One of the issues is STAR. You know, STAR in terms of our seniors, to make sure we keep property taxes low in New York State. We have some of the highest property taxes in the nation, and STAR has been a good program to ensure that our seniors, we can keep their property taxes as low as possible. Unfortunately, in the proposed budget of the governor, he wants to freeze the STAR. So for example, if the budget goes up, your local school budget goes up 2%, you will not see an increase of the 2% 5% in the reduction. They're going to freeze. He wants to freeze your star as it was last year and not going forward. I believe that is just absurd. If there's an increase, the seniors should also make sure that they receive their star rebate reflective of any increase in there. The other part about that is that there's an income verification part where now seniors would have to definitely go online and put all of their information into a computer system and would not be able to go down to our local assessor and have a first-hand talk with the assessor about how to properly do this paperwork. I also believe that is outrageous. You know, our assessors are there. They are willing to help. They want to assist our seniors get through this bureaucratic process. The governor wants to take that step out. I'm opposed to that. I want to make sure that you have your voice and that you can go down to the local assessor's office and make sure the paperwork is filled out properly.
I was just thinking as you explained that about my mother. She's 88. She's pretty computer savvy. She goes on Facebook, she can text messages, sends pictures, does all that stuff. But filling out a STAR application every year, that is something that would overwhelm her, no two ways about it.
And our assessors, I've spoke to many of them, they want to assist. They realize it's very difficult to even to get through the Department of Taxation and Finance. And you know, the other point I want to just raise that we're talking about this is that the governor, you know, has a proposed payroll tax in this budget as well. So this is as a result of some of the changes in the federal government, and he wants to put a payroll tax on. And this would be in addition to the income tax. Well, you know, my office is flooded all the time about questions about not receiving their rebate checks, not receiving their proper STAR allocations. You know, the last thing that the state needs to do is create another bureaucratic arm to impose another tax and try to administer. They can't even administer the rebate checks right. Now, if you do have a problem with your rebate check, and you've not received yours, you always feel free to contact my office at 839-4690. That's 839-4690. My staff would be able to help you. We will contact the Department of State Taxation and Finance, and we'll do our part to try to assist to get your rebate check.
All right, we're already down to our last couple of minutes.
Already?
Here.
Wow.
Already.
There's so much to talk about.
So
Mike.
much to talk about. Be fair to direct care. We've heard that slogan a lot here at the state capitol. We heard it last year too, and it has to do with state payments to those people that provide direct care to the people in the state that need it most.
Yes, last week, the Developmentally Disabled Advocacy Group, Donnie came up to see me in Albany to explain the serious problem in recruitment of workers to assist those who are most in need. And I tell you, I sympathize with them. Fast food workers, I have nothing against them at all. I mean, they are making $15 for a wage per hour. The folks who are working with those who are less or more in need are making far less than that. They're assisting the most vulnerable. And I believe that last year in the budget, we did put in a provision to increase the wages to be fair to direct care workers. But we also have to make sure this is a long-term problem. We need to bring those wages up in fairness to the work that these individuals are doing. And I will tell you that this is very, very important to me to also increase the number of beds and facilities in the group home available. I've met with many of the parents with children who have these needs, and they're getting older. So we need to make sure that we do our part to increase the amount of group homes as well. So we're fighting for that.
We have only scratched the surface of what's being talked about here at the state capitol in terms of budgeting and how monies are going to be spent. You folks pay attention to the news coming out of the capitol over the next few weeks, and you'll see what's going on. Now, Mike Norris told you if you had questions about property tax rebate checks, you can call his office. It's an easy thing for you to do. There's the number on screen, and the 716-839-4690. You can also drop an email to norrism@nyassembly.gov. Mike Norris, thanks for joining us
Thank
today.
you, Mike, for having me.
Thank you, folks, too, for spending your time with us. We'll hope to see you soon for our next Assembly Calendar.